We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we're going to have an invocation by Pastor Doug Weston.
Yes. Let's all stand as we go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to serve this fine city, Lord. And I thank you so much for the protection that you put on these people that work for the city and actually place their lives on the line, Lord, during the ice storm to keep the electric to the people here in Miami. I pray, Lord, you be with this council and just guide us and direct us and give us wisdom in the decisions that we make. And we just pray that we do all this according to your will. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
You join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, public input and unscheduled personal appearances. And anyone in the audience that wishes to address his authority on any of the agenda items. Thank you. Item number 5 is the consent agenda. Staff recommends that items 6 and 7 be placed on the consent agenda for approval. Are there any objections to those items being placed on the consent agenda? If not, may I have a motion, please?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 6 and 7.
And a second.
Second that.
Roll call, please.
Johnson?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Sharbit?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye, thank you. Item number 8, approve and implement cash handling policy. Lindsay.
Good evening. One of the criticisms that we got from the state audit was the lack of oversight by the city in regards to the internal controls of some of our certain trusts. Internal controls are policies and processes designed to prevent loss of assets. In this case, it's cash. And loss of assets can be both an intentional and surprisingly sometimes unintentional act. And we have created just a basic cash handling policy for all any department that handles cash for them to follow, and it's just a basic policy. I think it's in you guys' packet.
It is.
I'm just trying. We just want to see if we can get approval and implement the policy. If you have any questions.
David?
It's a good idea, sir.
Right.
And I did submit it also to Brenda at Crawford for her to review, and she came back, and the only comment that she had was she said we needed a new policy for petty cash. She'd like for it to be separate, which I think we mentioned it in here. So we're going to work on that and bring it back to you at a later time.
Mr. Chairman, we modeled this policy off of one that we found from Sodexo.
Sodexo.
When we were doing our due diligence on the stadium, because we're in negotiations with them to do the concessions. And we didn't want to have the criticism come back that we hadn't done any due diligence on the internal controls at Sodexo, and we found them to be quite excellent. In fact, so good that we stole them. So we don't have any pride. we changed the name, and we did make it apply to some of the laws we have to do too, but it was really an excellent policy. So staff's recommending approval tonight.
Excellent. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Sharbit?
Aye.
McLean?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye. Item number 9, request for dispensation beyond the approved policies on utility bill by citizen Ashley Francis, 506 F Street Northeast. Is Ms. Francis here? Mr. City Manager, do you want to just pass on this item? Do you want someone from staff to brief us on it, or?
We can provide you with any information that you prefer, Mr. Chairman, but staff's recommendation is to stick to the policy.
Okay.
And
That's already in place, that they have the discretion.
we have provided
implement.
the maximum extent of on discretion that the policy allows us. We've already extended those to this customer, and staff is requesting that we stick with that policy. It's your choice tonight to either accept that recommendation or to table this item for consideration at a later date in case the customer wants to come in and.
Lindsay, do you know, was she informed the council meeting started at 5:30?
As far as I know, she's the one that requested to be on it, so I didn't actually speak to her about this. I think she spoke with
Amber.
and then Amber Smith upstairs, so.
So, staff is ambivalent about that. If you want to hold off for another meeting just in case we have an opportunity. We've done that with citizens before. We're fine with that.
I would recommend that we not table the item, because if we do it automatically comes back up, we just take no action, and if Ms. Francis requests to appear before us again in the future, then we can do that. Is that okay with everyone?
That's fine with me.
Okay, well, we're just gonna pass on item number 9. Item number 10, other new business, if any, which has arisen since posting the agenda. Is there any new business?
No new business, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, item number 11, trustee community announcements. Any announcements?
Nope.
I want to say on behalf of the council, thank you to all the staff. I mean, we've had a lot of problems out there, a lot of busted water pipes. I was just coincidentally involved with a citizen earlier today that had one, and staff was trying to get there as quickly as they could to try to help. And I was told when I talked with the ladies in the utility building that there had been quite a few of those occurrences, and they were trying to help citizens where they could. And in addition, keeping the streets have really been kept very clean, as much as is reasonable. So thank you to Jeff, to all the staff for that. Item number 12, staff reports. Written reports are included in your packet. If available, staff is present for questions. And item number 13, Christie.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
McLean? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Sharpit?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye. That meeting is adjourned, and now we will move right into the Miami regular city council meeting. We are called to order. Item number 2 on the agenda is public input and unscheduled personal appearances. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council on any of the agenda items? There being none, item 3 is a consent agenda. Staff is recommending approval of items 4 through 10. Are there any items that any of you object to, or do we have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion for the consent agenda, items 4 through 10.
Okay. And do we have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call.
Johnson?
Aye.
McLean? Aye. Weston?
Aye.
Sharpit?
Aye.
And Schultz?
Aye. That takes us to item number 11, authorize the mayor to sign a resolution to waive deposit and rental fees of the Civic Center Gymnasium for the NEO tournament in the amount of $32.20. Mr. Dale Patterson. Coach, how are you?
Coach.
I'm fine. How you doing, Mr. Mayor and
Good.
council? Everybody doing good today? Appreciate that. First of all, on a personal note, I just want to say thank you to the mayor and the council for what you do for our community. I know y'all have a tough job, and I personally appreciate y'all willing to serve and what you do for our community. Coming today to represent NEO and ask permission to use the Civic Center and to waive the fees involved. The NEO basketball tournament is again this year, January 23rd, 24th, and 25th. I'd like to go back and say NEO's used the Civic Center probably since it was built in the 50s. This year we have 48 teams coming in. We have 3 women's brackets and 3 men's brackets that'll be played on, like I said, on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. We're using 4 gyms in Miami. We're using the college gym, the SAC, Miami High School gym, and of course we'd like to use the Civic Center as one of our main venues. All gyms are used all 3 days, and again, 48 teams, a lot of games, a lot of people come in the community to support this tournament. So we'd sure like to be able to use it again this year, and ask that you would consider waiving the fees because it does bring a lot of tax money into the community. Anybody have questions?
I don't have any questions. Amanda, do you have any comments on the impact the tournament has on our community?
I mean, just from the hotel side, I know we've got, last check, I think we have 6 teams for sure that had already booked.
Okay.
And that will be for multiple stays, so.
Great. Any other questions for Coach?
Are these teams just the four-state area or?
Well, I think, you know, we used to have more teams, but since we've kind of limited it down to 48 teams, it seems like we're getting more teams coming in outside. We have Guthrie coming in. We've always had Roland. We have a couple of teams out of Oklahoma City that we haven't had in a long time. So it's really started to expand. There for a while, you know, we were getting mostly just the local teams, but now in the last couple of years, Amanda, you probably know as much as I do, we really expanded out to more teams, Springfield and on out, that have come in to the tournament. So in our bigger bracket of the bigger teams has really expanded to some really good teams coming in now.
If there are no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll
Second.
second.
Roll call. 1, 2.
Schultz,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
McLean.
Aye.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, item number 12 is similar to something we just talked about in the SUA, the cash handling policy. Do we have any questions of Lindsay? There's basically the same policy, isn't
Yes,
it?
sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
Make motion approved.
And
Second.
and Joe seconds. Roll call, please.
Weston,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Schultz.
Aye. Item 13, authorize city manager to sign GH2 project work order 04 Civics, which is for the Civic Center, roof replacement and update on police department design for 201 Goodrich Boulevard.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chuck was scheduled to present this tonight, but I've shanghaied it. We had a pretty lengthy presentation at a previous meeting where we discussed the middle step of the three-step process, whereby we had evaluated the Civic Center for space needs, and we were in the process of evaluating some external sites as an alternative to reinvesting in the Civic Center. And we were going to do one yet further step, and that was to do an analysis on what it would cost to build a brand new building from scratch. The purpose behind this exercise was to evaluate the cost effectiveness of reinvesting in the Civic Center versus alternatives. That kind of got a bit skewed a little bit in the public that the city was hiring a moving van and we were moving downtown. We weren't. We were turning stones. But unfortunately, we kind of got shanghaied ourselves by this last ice storm, in the sense that it pretty much created some severe leaks in the roof. And because of the impact the moisture's had on our mold issue, we no longer feel like we've got the luxury of time. We need to go ahead and start moving towards getting this building fixed. So accordingly, I've issued a stop order to GH2 on the analysis of the building downtown. We're going to continue to look at 201 Goodrich Boulevard. I'll talk about that in a little bit more in detail. But this item tonight starts a series of projects that we'll be bringing to you over the next coming months. Item number one is to fix the roof. I've got some pictures of some of the roof problems throughout the building that we'll share with you here just in a moment. But we'll also have one for the abatement of the mold. We've got a real heating and air conditioning problem throughout the building. We've got a very antiquated boiler, so it's either baking the folks in the HR department, or it's freezing other folks in parts of the building. We really found out how extensive that was through this cold spell. And it's riddled with asbestos, so by law we'll have to take special steps to abate that situation. So this particular work order would basically have GH2 prepare construction documents, utilizing initial roof report that we had done by AWS last year. We did do some repairs to the roof, but those were pretty much undone by the ice storm. Current building codes, which is one of the problems that we have when we start looking at making reinvestments into the Civic Center, is that it's grandfathered to a certain extent until you go past a certain point. When you start doing so much work on the building, then you start triggering the new codes. And the codes from 1950 something, when this building was built, and now are radically different. So we will try to be as judicious in that and not find ourselves in a massive expenditure trying to catch up with the codes. But one of the things we will have to do is that this roof is flat. It's a ballasted roof. And the options we're looking at will have to require some type of a slope to the roof so that it drains better. One of the options that the architect is going to look at is a lightweight concrete roof system, which I have not worked with before. I've always been partial to TPO systems, but anxious to see how that works out. You get the normal thing from an architect in this process. The fee is $19,580 plus $2,760 if electronic as-built measurements and drawings are not available. And we're not certain at this point in time, Chuck, if those, we still haven't located any, have we?
We have some drawings, whether that they're the latest and greatest drawings.
Whether or not they're actual accurate as-built. So we may have a little bit extra cost associated with that. So that is the item we're asking for action on. The other update is I don't really have an update because of the weather and the holidays. The architects had not gotten to 201. So if the council tonight wants to direct staff to put a stop on that, we could do that without having expended any funds. But we would encourage you to continue with it so we can just get a baseline cost for what it would take. We have had a number of suggestions on other great sites in the community that would be better. In fact, I think I've pretty much got a list of just about every building that's for sale in town now from either their realtors or their owners. We did take a look at a few of the buildings, and again, these were tests for determining whether or not it was advisable to reinvest in this. They were not designed to be a site selection process whereby we determined that was the absolute best location to put the building. We'll give that some thought. Between now and your next meeting, we may come back with a better recommendation at that meeting. So, I've prepared a little slideshow here of some of our best roof issues. This is right outside the bathroom, outside the city attorney's office. After the storm, the entire ceiling grid collapsed. This is the spot where we have the horse trough now underneath it, collecting the rainwater. We were using a trash can, but we've gone past the ability of the trash can to contain the runoff. Let's see, I got to do this a different way. This is inside the city attorney's office. I think, David, you actually lost some documents.
Well, it opened up right on top of the file cabinets, so if it was going to pick a spot, it picked a good one.
And you'll also notice the discoloration, this dark stuff. We've got that throughout the building in places. We did have an industrial hygienist come in and test it, and we've got several different varieties of mold in the building. More of the city attorney's office. This is outside your office too. It kind of picked on you.
A little bit.
Yeah. This is just a montage of all the locations in the building where the leaks are coming through. This is a good picture of some of the wiring in the building. And this is, we've made an effort to go in and replace these tiles as we're able to in locations.
You can tell from the coloration, a lot of those tiles have been replaced.
Yeah, these are,
repeatedly.
yeah, these two are, where we've got leaks, where we've actually gone in and replaced the tiles before. So anyway, that's just a little collection of some of the spots.
So, we're gonna get an estimate on the roof. Do we have estimates on any of the other work?
We have estimates from a year ago. We shared those at your last meeting. When we stopped collecting estimates, when our estimate went over $600,000 for repair of this building, and we just cracked the surface on it. So we'll continue.
Typically good for 30 days, I would think.
Yeah, none of those quotes are going to be, we're going to be starting from scratch on all of those, but I doubt very seriously that we're going to see any dramatic decreases, but we'll find out when we, and even when you get through having an architect's estimate, we don't really know what the price is going to be until we actually go out for bid. I really dislike giving you prices on specific projects like this because until you go out to bid, you never know. I mean, when you look at the professionals that are involved in the stadium project, and you've got the brain trust of Oklahoma State's facilities department, an architect that has done a lot of these projects, and a fairly substantial construction manager, and they get surprised in their bids as well. So until we actually go out for bids, we're not going to know. But the reason why we started this exercise is that we know it's going to be a lot of money. As we start going through these repairs, fixing a roof the size of the roof that we've got, just getting rid of the material with the ballast up there, it's not going to be cheap. And the removing the mold, and then dealing with asbestos, and then buying new HVAC equipment to replace it. And then we haven't even done anything about cosmetics, and we haven't done anything about the wiring in the building. So we'll bring those to you. But in the meanwhile, we've still got to, no matter what we do at this point in time, we really need to take a crack at fixing the roof so that things don't continue to get worse and add and escalate those costs.
I think there was an analysis done about a year ago on issues related to mold. And I don't know that a lot of folks understand that we're not talking about the fact that sometimes you get a little mold. I think we're talking about long-term issues. And you may want to ask about that or take a look at that as well, because that can be both a substantial legal risk and a substantial expense to deal with.
Well, my question is, wasn't this company, we were looking at this company to help us make a decision whether this location was going to be the cost of this versus another location versus a new. Now we're not even going to consider the other two?
Yes, sir. I think, well, we can't consider it if you, but you're going to have a stranded investment in replacing the roof. And it's gotten to the point to where we need to go ahead and fix the roof now, because by the time we get done looking at the analysis, and then if the decision is to move with one of the alternatives, by the time you've implemented one of those alternatives, we could have even more catastrophic failure. I mean, this past time, it leaked all the way down into the second floor into the finance department, and the copier went on a fritz. So it's a significant impact to the organization at this point.
I don't know how much longer this old pickup can be patched up and kept running, if at all.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. You know, it's just like, you know, what we have is we had an old pickup that mechanic told us was going to take several $1,000s to fix, and we wanted to think about, well, should we fix it, or should we get a new pickup, or should we get a different pickup, or but we need something to get us to work right now, so I'm saying we're going to have to fix the roof. And our recommendation is tonight is to get GH to work on getting a bid package out to see what it's going to cost to fix the roof permanently.
So, if the roof were fixed permanently, I hate having this conversation away because there's so many unanswered, at this point, unanswered questions, but if the roof were fixed and we found reasonably cost-effective ways to fix some of the others, and then the police department was relocated, does that free up enough space to get everyone in this building onto the ground floor?
Yeah, we believe so, yes. Yeah. The police department's issue with their space is size. It's in fairly decent shape, and the heating and air conditioning in that wing of the building is in pretty good shape. So yeah, ideally that would be able to get us to one floor throughout the building, which precludes triggering enough of the ADA that we would have to put an elevator to the second floor, and you're talking major dollars if you have to put an elevator in. So that's the dance that we were looking at, is if we trigger enough of the code that we have some regulator that comes in and tells us, well, now you need to get an elevator up to the second floor, then we're looking at serious money in the building. So it would be much more cost effective. And I don't think we'd ever get to the point where we actually seriously entertain putting an elevator at the second floor. We'd come up with a different solution.
Will this bid give us an idea how much we're going to lose in our grandfathered structure of the building?
Well, I don't think replacing the roof in itself would. I'm more worried about is when we start looking at things like replacing the electrical and working with plumbing
So
And
this is just for the roof?
This is just for the
Just
roof.
for
This
the
is
roof.
all we're talking about tonight is sealing up the roof. And it will give us time. We probably will then next move on the mold abatement so that we can get it eradicated. But after that, then we've got some time to look at some other options.
So we're between a rock and a hard place.
You won't recover the investment.
You just don't want to chase good money after bad, but
Right.
you're gonna have to fix a roof, whatever you do to the building.
And at this point, all we're doing is getting an estimate. We're not approving actually paying for a new roof tonight, which gives us a little more time to contemplate it. But I think without the information, we can't make an informed decision. So based on that, I would make a motion that we approve item number 13.
I'll second, Mayor.
Roll call, please.
Schultz,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
McLean. Aye.
Thank you. And as individual council members, if you have other questions for Jeff or want to take a look around the building, I've already done some of that. If you want to do that, I would encourage you to do so. Item number 14, authorize mayor to sign Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality application for permit to construct southwest well. Tyler and his OSU shirt.
Yes, sir. Tonight before you is the application for ODEQ for the well in the southwest that's being constructed. So it's a standard DEQ form that you guys have approved before for us. This is just for this project.
David, any comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Jeff, any comments?
No, sir.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Johnson,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Sharbit,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you very much.
Item 15, authorize city manager to sign contract with Integris for health and wellness fair on January 30th. Ms. Horn. Hi, Kim.
Good evening. This is the third year that we'll be partnering with Integris to conduct the Health and Wellness Fair. This is the first time we've asked you to do a contract, but it's a more effective way, I think, to handle all the details so we have everything lined out before we do the Health and Wellness Fair. So we're asking you to approve that this evening.
I made a minor edit. I'd recommend approval beyond that, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have none, Mayor.
Okay. Motion to
I'll make
approve.
a motion to approve.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Weston,
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Sharbit,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. Okay, Kim, you're on base again. Approve and accept employee incentives for participation in health and wellness fair assessment in the form of a $300 credit toward the deductible for calendar year 2014 and an additional $300 incentive toward calendar year 2014 deductible for 10 employees or dependents, and some pool passes, etc.
What's different this year, and we're asking you to approve these incentives. In the past, we've given days off with pay, and there were some issues with that involving hourly versus non-hourly employees. So we've chosen to go a different way. We have given the half deductible, which is the $300. So what we're asking to add this year is the extra $300 for 10 employees or dependents who will be randomly drawn, and also the 5 family pool passes, which I'm hoping I win one of those. So that's a good deal.
I will say that this health fair started 3 years ago. I was on the council, and I think Mayor Brassfield was the mayor at the time. It's really been a boon to our employees, and I think long-term it really is going to significantly reduce the city's healthcare cost. So
Right.
I'm certainly in favor of any incentives we can provide.
Okay.
And I would put that in the form of a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Schultz,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, item 17, approve revision to City of Miami Personnel Policy 5.7.2, schedule overtime, and 5.7.3, emergency callback. Kim?
About 4 years ago, I was on an employee committee to look at our personnel policy manual. And this is one issue that we discussed even then, and it's always been really not very clear about what scheduled overtime is or isn't. So what we're seeking to do is clarify the policy. We want to change the scheduled overtime to just overtime approved by your supervisor Anything over 40 hours would be paid at time and a half, with the exception of Sundays and holidays, which would be paid at double time. The reason that we've left in the emergency callback clause is because if you are called back, you are guaranteed a minimum of at least 2 hours. So that will be the difference, but it will be paid at the same rate, time and a half, but if it's on a Sunday or a holiday, it would be paid at double time.
Any comments?
I'm just curious, that works for the city electric crew when they get called in?
It does for everyone.
Yeah.
This has been an issue. I've been here 12 years. This has been an issue. It's hard. The way that the policy states now, it's just really hard to clarify what is notice. So this makes it extremely clear. And what we're legally required to do is just pay time and a half. But we've always done the double time because we think that's a benefit to our employees. But as far as what we're required to do, this is still going above and beyond that.
So it's always been double time on Sundays.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, we're not changing that. That's existing policy.
Right.
But you're clarifying the notice provisions.
Correct. And doing away with scheduled overtime and just calling it overtime period. It doesn't matter if you have 8 hours notice or not. The only time that you'll be paid double time is if it's on Sunday or on a holiday.
Okay. Any other questions? Do we have a motion, please?
David?
No. If you had additional questions of the notice scenarios, I was going to mention those, but if you don't, I don't have any comment.
I'd like to know about the notice.
You could literally have people distinguishing between scheduled overtime and notice based on, I got a text, I got a phone call.
Right.
And that could make a difference between whether it was deemed to be, scheduled, whether they were given 8 hours notice. It could make a difference on whether they got time and a half.
Correct.
Double time. And this takes out all the guesswork.
So you mean that the past policy
Yes, sir.
allowed for those variations?
Right.
Yeah.
And this clarifies that
Absolutely.
and eliminates it.
They were real world scenarios. They were things that would really happen. So.
Does that answer your question, Joe? Okay. If there are no other questions, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, Mayor.
And a second? I will second. Christie seconded that.
Okay. Johnson?
Aye.
McLean? Aye. Sharbit?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye.
Thank you.
We would come up with a rotation if we just knew for sure everybody was going to second something, but we don't. So we'll stumble along. Item 18, to be considered no earlier than 6 p.m. We just made it by 3 minutes. Public hearing petition for an ordinance rezoning of the property at street address 2223 North Main from M2 to C5. Chuck Childs.
I wish I could take credit for planning this exactly at
03.
6:03, but it just happened that way. So tonight we have a request for the rezoning. The first part of this is we're going to have a public hearing. We're going to officially open the public hearing, take comments on this rezoning, close the public hearing, and then the next item on the city council agenda will be to consider this item for consideration. So the planning commission met, and their favorable recommendation to the city council was to go ahead with this recommendation to change the zoning from M2 to C5. And again, as this slide here indicates, we're asking the city council open the public hearing, take comments from the public, and then officially close the public hearing.
Okay, so is there anyone in the audience that wants to comment on this agenda item during this hearing period?
We need to open the meeting first.
Okay, so
I
well,
meant to open the public hearing.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm catching on here. And do we need a second for that? Okay, we have a second. And I guess we need a roll call.
McLean? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Sharbit?
Aye.
Weston?
Aye.
Schultz?
Aye. Now, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment? All persons interested may appear. There being none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
And a second?
I'll second.
I think Doug beat her to the punch on that.
I had Sharbit. So, okay. Johnson,
Aye.
Weston,
Aye.
Sharbit,
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Schultz.
Aye, thank you. So item number 18 then is to approve mayor to sign an ordinance rezoning of the property at street address 2223 North Main from M2 to C5. And Chuck, again.
Correct. And again, the City Planning Commission heard this on December 30th, favorable recommendation. The actual legal description of the property at 223 Main Street it was put up there. And again, we're asking the City Council to rezone this property from M2 to C5.
Jack Smith put on a tie, Mayor. Could we please ask him to step forward?
I did have a question for him.
Jack, Councilman.
I just want to know if you've done everything right.
Oh, my gosh.
Huh?
You wouldn't have hired me if I hadn't.
Thank you, Jack. So do we have a motion to approve the rezoning?
I guess all the notices were given out and proper notices and, okay, sir. Did the city planning commission have any questions or problems?
They all agreed that this needed to be rezoned. It's the gym. It's should have been rezoned as commercial C5. It was built per the setbacks, 25-foot setbacks. That's the reason it's not being rezoned to C4, because C4 you can build to the property line. So with Mr. Brassfield making the alterations, it's no longer grandfathered in, so he needs to bring it up to code.
Sounds
Okay.
like a similar issue.
So do we have a motion?
Motion approved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Roll call?
Sharbit,
Aye.
Weston.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Schultz.
Aye. Item 26, approve an emergency clause if requested on the ordinance rezoning the property that has just been discussed. Jack, I'm assuming you would like an emergency clause?
I would.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion approved.
And a second?
Second.
Sharbit,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Weston.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye, thank you. And thank you for adding another business in town. Item 21, approve mayor to sign election proclamations for the election of a mayor and a first ward council person. And does this proclamation have to be read, or is it? Okay. So just the gist of it is that myself and Councilman McLean, our offices, will be up for election in April. And the filing period will be February 3rd, 4th, and the 5th. So all interested parties, you are on notice. Do we need a motion?
I just want to make a clarification. I asked Jeff about this, but I want David to back it up.
Yes, sir.
On Ward 1, Christie's seat, this election will be for 2 years. Is that right? It's actually filling out the rest of the term. Is that correct?
It will, and I'll read specifically from the resolution. Gotta find it really quick. It's to, as required by state law, it's to complete the balance of the current unexpired term of office, which will end at the first regular meeting of the city council in May 2016. So yes, 2 years.
Okay. I just want to make that clear to everybody.
Yes, sir.
The normal terms of office run for 3 years, but since Christie was filling out my unexpired term, the charter requires another election and to fill out that 2-year balance period.
It's also a state law requirement, so even if we had a different charter provision, we'd still have to do it this way.
Normally, that particular ward in the city would not have been up for election in this cycle. But
Correct. Because
she's filling out my term, it is. And then this would be the normal time for the mayoral election in the cycle. So that will be for a 3-year term.
Yes, sir. And in case anyone's curious, the way our city charter works, all registered voters of the city can vote for the mayoral race, but only the registered voters of Ward 1 vote on the Ward 1 council seat.
And if you have any other questions, see the county election board for qualifications. So do we, that says approve, so we need a motion?
Yes, sir. Vote on the resolution.
Motion approved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Nobody wants an election, I don't
I
guess.
guess not.
Weston.
Aye.
Sharbit.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Schultz.
Aye. Thank you. Item 22, other new business, if any, which has arisen since the posting of the agenda. Any new business?
No new business, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 23, staff reports. The written reports are included in the packet, and if staff is available, present for questions.
Questions, ma'am?
Okay. Item 24, mayor and council community announcements and signing of approved documents. I'd just like to reiterate my comments earlier about appreciation of city staff for all the hard work that they did keeping the streets clean and helping out those people that have had busted pipes, et cetera.
And I'd just like to add, I've had comments, when we had the utilities out, utility crew done a great job. I had several comments that, pretty proud of you guys. Thank you.
Item 25 is an executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B4 for confidential communications. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I hope we have a motion up there that we can.
You do.
Okay.
It's fairly long.
Now, is there more than one item on this agenda?
Yes, sir, there are, 3.
I have an old copy, so
Yes,
if
sir.
someone,
I don't have one either.
It's covered on the screen.
okay,
but
if they're
there's
all
no-
on there then,
Is that all we
Yes, sir.
need?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess you want me to read it?
if you don't mind.
Okay. I move the council to enter into executive session to discuss the Key Tam lawsuit and also pending investigations of allegations of officer misconduct arising from the DA's dismissal of the Payne case because of the city attorney's advice that the public disclosure of the attorney-client discussion would seriously impair our ability to process those matters in the public interest. I also move the council to enter in executive session to discuss a proposal to entice a business to locate within the city because public disclosure would violate the confidentiality of the business.
Okay, do we have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call?
Johnson.
Aye.
Sharbit.
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Weston.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye. We are in executive session. If you'll clear the room, please. But we are waiting for the camera. There it is. The microphone. Okay.
It's cool, y'all did the
We
same
are
time.
out of executive session. We are going to move to item 26, which is approve a contract agreement for economic development services with Retail Attractions LLC. All of you had a copy of the contract in your packet. And since I had worked on that on the council's behalf with Ricky, if you have any questions, Ricky Hayes, I'd be happy to try to answer them. It's pretty straightforward. Just for the benefit of the public watching, it's a contract for economic development services for a 6-month period. It's about half the rate that we paid in the past when we retained Mr. Hayes and Retail Attractions for their services. So, that being said, do we have a motion or any questions?
I'm fine with the 6-month period, Mayor. Like I said, we can, as you and the council, we can look at it again in 6 months if we have to. But if there's no objections, I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Johnson.
Aye.
Weston.
Aye.
Sharbit.
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Schultz.
Aye. Thank you. Item number 27, motion to adjourn. Ms. McLean?
I make a motion to adjourn.
And a second, please.
Aye.
McLean. Aye. Sharbit.
Aye.
That was a second.
Yeah.
It's getting late.
Yeah. I knew what he meant.
And read it to me.
Weston.
Second.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Sharbit. Schultz.
Schultz, aye.